Justin Hill, thank you so much for
Yo,
doing this, mate. Really appreciate it.
of course, man. Thanks
My
for
man.
wanting to chat. I mean, it's just a good excuse to catch up, really, isn't it?
Exactly. Like we've just been saying, it's been quite a while since we've been able to kind of chat, and
Yeah.
UK being on lockdown and not being able to move around and, hang out with each other. This is kind of the perfect excuse.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's my excuse to have a couple of beers anyway. That's what's
Yeah,
going on.
exactly. That too. So,
Cheers,
mate,
man.
cheers. My empty glass of lemon water.
Oh,
I know, right?
zesty.
Could have a glass of wine. Could have a glass of wine. I reckon we should start with a quick chat about how we met, and
Mm-hmm.
and then from there we can kind of go into your background. So
Yeah, I think
now
you just want to boast about your old band, don't you, basically?
not at all.
Met, right?
Your favorite?
Yeah.
Mate, I'm struggling to remember the year. I must have been 20, either 20 years old or 21 years old. So that would have been 2010 or 2011. I can't remember when we did our EP.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I must have been about 20, so a good 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So this,
It
yeah.
was a rare situation where I heard a demo and I was like, I just want to work with this band. Let's just make this happen. Come on, guys. I've got a studio. Come on down. Let's make some music.
Fortress.
So, yeah. Oh man, don't you make me cry. What a place.
What a place. I loved it. No,
Yeah.
that was fantastic. That was a real great experience for young musicians like me and my friends to come in and work with a professional like yourself.
Thanks, Steve.
So yeah, that was that was how we kind of first met, and then since then we've worked together quite a bit really, haven't we? It's we did the EP, we did an album. We've done another album with my current band.
Yep. You came here, did the vocals.
Yeah.
I even took you out to the pool, didn't I?
We went
To
to
help.
Nepal together. Yes. Yeah, man.
So you've been, yeah, and you came back over and did the single as well, didn't you? The White Noise single.
That's right.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we did White Noise as well.
I think he's like, did I go there to do the vocals?
No, I remember it. I remember we had Elliot and Mate. So this is with All But One.
Yep.
Yeah. But Nepal, yeah, we should talk about that later. That was a heck of an experience. In fact, I was chatting to someone about that literally like 2 days ago. Good times.
Yeah, man.
So that's a brief kind of
yeah, our musical journeys have kind of overlapped certain moments over the years, haven't they? Since, like, what do you reckon, 2011?
I think so.
It's like our 10-year anniversary, Joe.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the 10-year anniversary.
Wait, you haven't aged today, have you?
Don't know about that. I feel it. From there, going on from our little background, tell us about your background. So this is a really generic question, but I think it's an important one because it's always such an exciting story to hear how creatives got their start and what made them choose to get into the world of music. So in a nutshell, what kicked it all off for you?
Being a kid and just wanting to be in a band and idolizing the guitar and wanting to be a guitarist in a band, and now I'm a producer. So I was a guitarist for a few years. Couldn't find a singer that I liked the sound of their voice, and I was writing lyrics and I was writing the songs, so I was like, sod it, I'm just gonna do the vocals, even though everyone at my school when I was doing these school gigs was like, please don't sing, you sound terrible, never ever sing. And I was just like, screw you, I'm gonna do it, get over it, it's happening. And and then obviously I played with SikTh, and SikTh were like, dude, put your guitar down, come and be a singer with us. And that was my sort of, to be honest, it was SikTh that really, for me, was the transition into being a singer. And then it was also my sort of, journey with SikTh that kind of introduced, well, it introduced me to the music industry. And I spent a lot of time in the studios with the bands. And I kind of, over the years, I kind of realized I prefer being in the studio than being on tour. So I had this kind of natural progression from being a singer to being a geek and just wanting to buy gear and obsess over it and, record bands and mix bands. So yeah, hence I'm here sat in my studio and not in a band anymore.
So how old were you? I know you've told me this before. I just can't remember. How old were you when you well, how old were you when you started a band? So that was school, you say?
Yeah, so I was probably like 14.
Okay.
Yeah, like
And
my
then
friend Tim was like, I'm going to play the drums, you're going to play the guitar, let's form a band and be massive. And yeah, we just skipped school. Like, not that I'm endorsing that in any way. Like, everyone needs to go to school and learn stuff. But yeah, no, that was pretty much my childhood, skipping school, rehearsing with my band, just obsessing over trying to make demos. And yeah, that's so like 14 was when I was playing guitar. I kind of got into being a singer and guitarist at the same time when I was 18. And then when I joined SikTh at 21, that's when I put the guitar down, because the guys were like, look, we can riff like this, we don't need another guitarist. Plus, I was, compared to them, I was pretty terrible at guitar. So I was like, all right, I'll just play to my strengths. I guess I'll focus on the singing.
sounds very much like my journey with When Our Time Comes. Being a guitarist, but not being as good as the other guitar players in the band. So I'll just sing.
I imagine it's quite a common like story. I think it was it the same for you? You grow up wanting to be a guitarist, and then you kind of fall into being a singer because you can't find a singer for your band.
Yeah, well, yeah, very much so. I mean, my first ever band, which was a blues band, blues rock. I sang and played the guitar, but I didn't consider myself a singer, especially when the other chap that sang was really naturally good. He was very naturally talented as a singer. And I kind of really had to work at it, but never really considered myself a singer. But then I kind of just sort of fell into singing a little more. And then I guess only by through practice did I get better at singing. And then yeah, guitar at college. So that was actually what I did at college. That was my degree. And then joined a band because they needed a singer. And I couldn't play metal guitar. I still can't play metal guitar.
It's hard.
It is hard. It is hard. I try, but my right hand sucks.
Yeah, man. There's a few times, there's a guitar behind me now, and there's a few times I pick it up and I'm like, it's not working. And the problem is as well, we spend so much time around these ridiculous guitarists. Like, it really puts you off playing, doesn't it? Because you're just like, never going to be as, I mean, for you being around Mate as well, you got no chance really, have you?
This is the thing. I mean, I was introduced to a completely new, with When Our Time Comes, especially, I was introduced to a completely new, not only genre really. I mean, I've always listened to like metal music, but I've never been in a metal band. I was in my first singing gig was in a pop punk band, but metal was a completely new genre for me, and in turn the instrumentation was new for me. The SikTh being the pioneers, shall we say, of the tech scene. I knew nothing about tech music. I didn't know what that was. I knew about odd time signatures, but probably only through jazz fusion. And then all of a sudden, I was playing, alongside guys that were playing tech metal riffs and things like that, and it was crazy impressive.
Kind of what gave you your uniqueness, though. I think that's maybe without realizing why I really liked your voice when I heard those initial demos. Because to me, you weren't kind of coming at it from the same angle that a lot of other singers were coming at it from at that point. You weren't belting it out. You weren't trying to match the intensity of the guitar riffs. You were kind of doing your own thing. You were kind of just like, the guys were rocking out behind you, and you just Joe cruising through the song, and it had a real cool vibe to it. So yeah, that's kind of what drew me in, and like that's kind of what I'm always looking out for with other bands, you know, something a little bit different, something that's gonna help set them apart, something that's gonna, you know, make them stand out and be the next big thing.
Absolutely.
Sorry, producer brain just kicking in then. I'm just like hearing you
It's
talk.
good. It's good. It needs to. That answers the second question I had in terms of kind of when you got into it. And when it became a profession. So I suppose at 21, when SikTh officially kind of got out and about, I guess that was your,
Yeah.
was that the point when it became the profession, like the career?
I mean, I had this really crazy point in my life where I think I joined the band in my second year of uni. I was doing like fine art painting.
I remember.
I got made to choose between music and art at like a really young age. Just the way the education system was back then, it was stupid. But so I chose art because it was, the music department was pretty like crap at my school, and it was something that I did, you know, as a passion. And yeah, so like I was on my art degree and I joined SikTh and we started touring. So my last 2 years of uni, like I was on tour more than I was at my uni course. And thankfully, my tutors were so amazing and so understanding. They were kind of like, okay, like as long as you meet all the deadlines, as long as you deliver all your work on time, you know, we'll support you, we'll make this happen. And they did. They were incredible. And I remember being in this crazy situation where I don't know if I told you, where I was like literally like putting up my final degree show, and it's like the evening, you know, where everyone comes and drinks wine and they look at the artwork and kind of chit chat about it. I just flung it up on the wall, jumped in my car, drove straight to the studio, and we just signed our first album record deal. We got put on a wage. I was a full-time musician signed to a label, and I just put my degree show up. And I remember my poor parents like went down to the degree show, and you know, they're hanging out with all the other like artists and their families, and they're like, oh, it's such a shame he can't be here. And I'm like, see you later, Art, I'm a singer in a band now. So it was quite mad those last 2 years, but it was really fun. Like I kind of, you know, sometimes you kind of do want to live in the fast lane. It's sometimes it's nice to be able to like just bounce without even realizing it, you know, things are just happening. And so yeah, I think it was like I think I was probably like 20. I mean, because I had to do like a foundation course and then I went to uni after that. So I don't know, man, it was a lot of years ago. I can't remember exactly what age I was, but that's the point at which, as soon as that degree show was up, I was a full-time musician. So yeah. And that was my life. You know, every waking moment of the day.
Yeah.
SikTh was my, from that point on.
Juggling though, that's tricky. That's tricky, but you know, obviously final years are not easy. So props for managing it, man.
Thanks, dude. I mean, I think it was quite different for the art tutors. I think from what I've heard, I don't think music tutors would have been as understanding. So in a weird kind of way, I was quite lucky. I think I was really lucky, to be honest. Like you know, I invested a lot of time. I knew I wanted to be, you know, I knew I wanted to be a singer. I knew I wanted to take my role as a musician really seriously. And you know, when I joined SikTh, I knew the guys had management. They already had management, and you know, they were out to make it a profession and to prove a point, to show the world what they could do, sort of thing. And that's kind of, you know, when I joined the band, that was kind of part of, you know, what they were telling me. They were like, look, are you ready for this? Are you ready to, you know, are you ready to make the sacrifices that are needed to be in this band? And I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do with my life. So that sort of leaving uni and going full time with that band was man, it was really exciting. But it was, you know, there were times where it was a bit daunting and a little bit kind of frustrating. I kind of knew that I was, you know, a lot of my life was going to change, that I was never going to be home. I was, you know, I had this group of friends that I was like, yeah, I'm never going to see you again. See you guys later, sort of thing. And, you know, to be honest, I haven't really seen them since. So, you know, not being in the band anymore, it's weird how, like, you know, that was nearly 20 years ago. So that things got serious with SikTh. So it's, yeah, there's been plenty of time to sort of reconcile those friendships, but they just, you know, they just haven't, because I guess I just pissed them off.
No, I totally understand. It's, especially when you're moving around so much, it's quite a difficult lifestyle for people who don't have any idea about it to understand. And
Yeah.
I think you find you'll always get the support, whether it's truthful support or not, I don't know, but I think there's always going to be people like, we believe in you, go out and do it. But at the same time, the reality of it can be quite different, you know.
Oh yeah, they're secretly probably thinking, oh, that bastard, he never comes to anyone's birthdays. He's never here at the weekend. He's never, never around. And I mean, 20 years ago, it's not like we didn't really have smartphones with Facebook, so you weren't really keeping in contact.
Right, yeah.
Not to make myself sound really old,
Yeah,
but yeah, no,
it's
definitely
true.
the ball game. But man, like, that's my choice to be in that band is what kind of created the life that I am now. And I really did, there were great times, there were really dark times, but every moment of it meant something to me. So it was always worthwhile.
Absolutely.
I think in anything in life, if you're going to do it, you just got to go 100%. Like, otherwise, what's the point?
Definitely. And I guess it came at a perfect time, really. Sort of those like big early 20s. You're kind of just like, yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah, definitely. And we got to, we got to jump on loads of cool tours, like, new metal bands that at the time, I won't say names, but at the time I was fans of. And I remember the rest of the guys being like, oh God, we're playing with that band. And I'm like, yes, fanboy time. So it was good.
That was going to be my next question. Highlights. What were the highlights? Because there was a lot of them, and please name names.
I mean, we had, like, in the early days, we had lots of cool gigs. We had, like, well, but then we had lots of random, when a band's kind of starting out, you'd get that kind of a handful of crappy shows, and you get that one magic show where it'd all kind of click.
Mhm.
I guess if I was going to say highlights, it was really later on when we reformed.
Mhm.
And we did that whole Nepal, India, and we went to India afterwards as well. And for me, that those two, I don't know, they were like two places that I never really thought I'd get to go to. And when I was there, it's just so surreal, like taking in those environments and then seeing, people enjoying your music. It's pretty mad. And then obviously the Slipknot tour afterwards as well was like, fucking dream come true, man. Bucket
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was amazing. Like doing an arena tour, that was incredible. And that, like, obviously we know we know the bass player and everything, but yeah, like speaking to Corey and stuff like that, it's just mad. Like, it's just like kid stuff, just proper fanboy stuff. So yeah, we had a lot of like highlights, and I think we had so many different experiences in SikTh. I'm sure if you ask the guys what their favorite moments were, everyone would probably say different gigs or different moments, and you just like, you always take away something different, don't you? Like, each member would take something away, and definitely that Slipknot tour was a personal favorite of mine.
Absolutely. Oh, I was so chuffed when you guys got that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was. And that's kind of like, for me personally, I quit the band for the second time. Sounds pretty bad, but when I rejoined, we kind of had this like sort of discussion, like, if obviously the production was a big part of my life, and I was like, look guys, if you ever want to go full time, you ever want to get like super serious about everything, like, that's totally cool. And we had this agreement, I would step down. And that we did that arena tour, and we had big management on board, and everything had aligned, and there was like some nice deal on the horizon, and they were sort of like, right, we're going to go full time again. And that was kind of my moment to duck out again. So but yeah, what a great way to end, for me,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Out with a huge bang. And just coming back to Nepal, and what you just mentioned, knowing like that music, the choice, the radical choice that you decided to make, brought you to such an interesting part of the world, is what I love about it. Is what I love about like the life of a touring musician and a traveling musician, or performer rather. You get to kind of go to these incredibly unique corners of the world and see fans in an environment that you just wouldn't, not one naively, of course, but wouldn't think that there were, there was a metal scene or metal fans and things like that. And then, for us to show up, and there was what, 2,000 kids or something?
Yeah, something like that. It was mad, wasn't it? It's just
Crazy.
yeah, yeah, like totally unexpected. Like, just, I mean, I had no idea what we were turning up to. I mean, yeah, like, obviously, it's not the sort of thing you can Google and like, I just, yeah, we kind of got there, and the whole experience of where we were staying and the guys that were looking after us and
Yeah.
what they had built with the scene over there, and like being part of that, and yeah, it was just an amazing experience. Like,
Yeah.
definitely need to go back on like a personal kind of holiday hangout with those guys again. Needs to
Absolutely.
happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what we should do is we should get in touch with the boys because they promised if we come back, they'll take us on a helicopter ride up
Woo.
into the Himalayas. So that's on the
Wow.
agenda. So, boys, if you watch this, we're holding you to that.
Yeah, man.
So
Shout
yeah,
out to Vic,
yeah,
Avi, man. Good
Avi
dude.
Fly, yeah. Great guys, and yeah, what an incredible thing they've accomplished with their scene over there. So
Yeah,
impressive.
killer, man.
It's such a wonderful part of the world.
Definitely.
So, moving on to your current life, your current role, your current career as a producer extraordinaire, and a very talented one at that.
Oh, dude.
So you and Dan first kind of got in this together, worked together for a bit,
Yeah.
and then kind of went and did your own things.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, what made you both kind of try and get in, both move on into production?
I think of the thing that we struggled with in SikTh was we really struggled to find the right producer. Like, we were kind of these six individuals that had, too many ideas individually, and then you put these guys together and we're all pulling in different directions, and like, it's a producer's nightmare. So like, we'd worked with a few different guys on singles and EPs and stuff, and we kind of were like, we're hunting for the right guy, and we couldn't really find the person. And myself and Dan, we were getting really inspired by all this time we were spending a lot of time in different studios all around London, and yeah, we were picking up ideas on how to use gear, and you just hanging out with the engineers, you start to learn, and if you've got hunger for it, you're going to absorb all that information. And so yeah, I was kind of more interested in that than the singing. And Dan was learning a lot of stuff too. And then it got to a point where we finished the first album. I think myself and Weller had like done a few different individual production like like EPs or whatever, and we were in Florida doing the second SikTh album. And then we were kind of talking about what we're going to do when we get home. Obviously, we didn't finish the second SikTh album in Florida. We had to go home and like overdub it for like 6 weeks. But once the overdubbing was done, to get an album out, it's that whole process of it needs to be mixed, and there's gonna, for a band, there's a lot of waiting around to get into the live part of your cycle. And we were talking, and we both had X amount of projects lined up that we were going to produce when we got home, and we were kind of like, well, look, rather than both being these kind of like little producers, what if we teamed up? We just had this conversation in Florida, and we were just like, look, what if we teamed up? And then sign of the times, what if we create a MySpace page and just see what happens? And I remember we made this page, we kind of announced that we teamed up together, we got back, we did a few projects together, and it kind of exploded for us, because previously we both had like maybe 1 or 2 projects lined up. And then I remember I was the kind of guy that was talking to the bands most of the time. And I remember at one point I was like, I'm talking to 70 bands about different projects here, and they all seem really serious. I was like, I don't know how we're going to book all this in and tour, and like, but it was like this amazing moment. And we became like traveling producers that did it together. And it was this crazy time where we tour, we jump off tour, and we go live in a house with a band, in their house, sometimes their parents' house, sometimes their college house, sometimes a rented house or whatever, or their rehearsal room, and we just live with them. We'd rent a drum studio, and then we'd have a laptop and an interface and a couple of mics, and that was it. And we were like traveling producers, and we made quite a lot. We made a lot of albums and EPs and singles, and it was really fun. And we made that work up until, you know, we took our first rented studio space at Fortress. So yeah, it was fun. It was a really fun way to kind of like ease into being a producer, like having someone with you, because I didn't study like music production. It's just something that I kind of picked up from being in all these different studios. And then obviously, you know, you start to acquire a lot of knowledge, but then your knowledge does have a few holes in it. And if you're going to produce a band, you need to kind of go in there and know everything. So it did work out quite well, I think, having the two of us. We kind of assumed like these different kind of roles. Like, you know, Dan was like the guitar, bass and drum producer, and I was the kind of vocal producer. And then maybe Dan would kind of be more of the kind that I'd be more on the computer engineering, and he'd be the kind of like old school producer kind of behind me sort of thing. And yeah, we just kind of assumed these roles, and for quite a few years it was really fun. And then we kind of got to the point where we kind of naturally outgrew each other, and we just amicably kind of went our own kind of way. So yeah,
I guess you sort of learnt the technical side just by doing.
yeah,
Of it. Yeah.
yeah,
And
probably.
I guess you could bounce off each other and, you know, kind of learn off each other. And
Yeah, I mean, again, not to sound old, but like production back then was like this dark art. There wasn't the resource that there is now on YouTube, and, you know, like URM Nail the Mix and Mix with the Masters, and this you know, there's so many platforms to learn information now. So many people are sharing their techniques, whereas back in the day it really was like, you know, you'd be friends with someone that was engineering for Andy Sneap or Colin Richardson, and you'd be like calling them up like, man, I just heard that album that you just did and it sounds amazing, so can you please tell me what you did on the drums, like, or what happened with the guitars? And they'd be like, right, what you need to do is buy this little magic box that we used. And like, it was all word of mouth. It wasn't like posting, and it was this really mad time. And I think, to be honest, I think as well, like that's kind of part of the reason why we were so lucky, because when we started the kind of, you know, the whole MySpace of like two producers working together, we weren't just riding the SikTh thing. We were riding this kind of weird era where there weren't that many, to my knowledge, there weren't that many kind of, you know, starting out metal producers, or that had kind of, I don't know, found a platform to advertise themselves correctly. So I kind of felt like we were in this unique position where we were able to use the SikTh thing, because, you know, we worked on our records to kind of, yeah, showcase what we could offer. And yeah, we were in this unique position, and, you know, next thing you know, I'm trying to fight off 70 bands wanting to work with us.
I didn't know there was that many. 70.
Honestly, it was mad. It was mad.
That is wild.
I'm not gonna lie, like I don't have 70 people that I'm fighting off at the moment, but obviously, you know, I'm always negotiating stuff. But
yeah,
there's definitely a feeling. There was a feeling back then, like every person I spoke to, they were just hungry. They wanted to book. They were just like, take me. Whereas now I think people, because there's so much information and there's so many guys doing this job now, I feel like, you know, most people do reach out and they're like, okay, give me a quote, but they're probably getting like 10 guys quotes, you know. And there's so many platforms where you can, you know, I think it's even built into Spotify now, where you can hunt down producers and message them and get quotes, you know.
yeah.
So there's just, but it's cool. It's like you know, it's like music, you know, back in the day, you didn't have a phone in your hand and you weren't able to instantly access, you know, bands' albums. Like, everything's changing. It's good. It's the stakes are raising. You're either in the game or you're out of the game, really.
That is the right way to look at it, I think.
I say that, but I haven't signed up to any of these things yet.
I was just about to ask. What's the is it Sound Better? Is that one? Sound Better?
Yeah. That's the one that I band introduced me to the other day. They were like, you need to sign up to this, and I was like, yeah, I will. Yeah. I'm kind of lazy, man. I'm kind of like, I like doing what I'm doing right now, which is just I just like doing the production side of
Yeah,
things.
man.
Like, yeah, my
That's
dream day is to get the dog, go to work, you know, hang out, do a bit of time with the family, do a load of mixing, grab a couple of beers. I don't want to spend too much time like on social media. I don't want to spend too much time. I want to geek out behind a console, not geek out on a laptop. That's my brain, but yeah.
That's the thing with it, I guess. Access to all of these, things like yeah, Sound Better, and then Fiverr, and
Is that the one where you pay £5 and someone
you
does it?
can't. Yeah, well, yeah, I guess it started off like that. I mean, I think very
Yeah.
little is now $5, but yeah, the whole concept of the website was that you just pay professional in whatever profession really, $5, and then you can get them to do stuff for you for $5. But no, I think it's they've got yes,
What sort of stuff do people ask for on that?
everything, literally everything. It's anything from creative stuff to financial planning,
okay.
to architectural stuff, anything, absolutely anything. And I like the concept. I do like the concept. So with but it does there's now an abundance. I think that's the only thing, in all of these on all of these platforms. So I'm sure there's an abundance of producers on Sound Better, or an abundance of songwriters or whatever. So that's good because you've got your kind of pick of the litter, but at the same time, I think it increases the competition a lot, doesn't it? You've kind of, you've really got to have an edge over the next person. And honestly, with these platforms, take for example, Sound Better, you're up against, if you're coming in as a new producer, that's great. Like if you've got that kind of like hustle and you want to like, right, this is the way that it's happening now. Maybe I can generate a little bit of income, a bit of side income by just kind of advertising myself up there and getting people to chuck me a bit of cash for a quick job. You're pitching against huge producers that, quite frankly, from what I've seen, aren't even that much more expensive. So I'm sure, I don't want to make assumptions, but I'm sure there is a cap. There's a cap to what level these jobs are going to get done for you, or whatever capacity is. But yeah, it's kind of becoming affordable to access mixing or mastering for not a great deal of money from huge producers, where it might be different.
I definitely think the value of that, mixing and mastering has definitely come down. Like the big guns were paying, could have been charging like whatever, a couple of grand per song. Right. And I think it's definitely come down. But then I know of some guys that are on a roll and they are charging that still.
Yeah.
And I think it just depends what position you're in your career. I think the main thing is you just like if you're doing it right, you'll be busy. If you're not busy, then maybe someone's doing something. For a producer mixer, maybe you're doing something wrong. But the good thing is, we're living in a time where there are so many ways that you can make it work. So I think it's just finding what way works for you. Finding, because there's so many different types of clients out there. There's so many different people that want, there's so many different products types of products. Obviously there's doing sound. You could be doing sound for TV, you could be doing sound for film, you could be doing sound for adverts, for the list is endless. But so yeah, there's plenty of opportunities out there, but then you get into each one of those categories, and obviously there's different expectations of different clients, and different clients at different levels. So yeah, I think it's good. Sorry, that was my point. I think it's good that there's plenty of options out there. You just got to find what works for you.
Yeah.
Ramble. Sorry, I went off on one, didn't I?
No. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think there's a certain amount of quantity over quality, perhaps in all of these types of scenarios at the moment. Mm-hmm. but yeah, that's the world that we live in at the minute, isn't it? It's just kind of
Yeah.
access
Yeah.
to a lot of things quickly.
I
Uh,
think as the apps improve, though, they help guide you towards what's appropriate for you. I've noticed with a lot of these apps. So hopefully they sort of, if they're not there already, hopefully they'll start to improve and make sure that people are connecting with what's right, what's appropriate.
yeah,
Yeah, maybe I will create a sound better. I don't know.
I wasn't trying to pitch that to you, by the way.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I got my this video is sponsored by soundbetter.com. So moving on, this is a very interesting question I had for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you've worked with loads of great bands, a lot of which I know or heard of or I'm aware of, and lots that I don't. So, but I know that they're all great. As a producer, we're talking about here, producer and engineer. Okay. Some new to recording, or at least, new to recording, maybe new to being in a professional studio environment, or brand new to being in a band. And then you've also worked with the opposite end of the spectrum of veterans and people that have been doing it for years. Is there a particular stage that you prefer your clients to be at when they come to work with you?
No, is the answer. I kind of feel like, I don't know, there's something to be, I mean, I don't really have a preference, if that's what you mean. Like, I don't, I think you use different parts of your brain. So like a band, like a kid band, like when you were starting out, when I worked with you guys, and I don't know, this, I can see the opportunity, and there's so much space for me to kind of get involved with and kind of help and kind of, help each member kind of fulfill what I think, what they can. But then, opposite end of the spectrum, you work with the bands that, like I remember when I worked with Betraying the Martyrs the first time, those guys had like demoed their whole album, they'd rehearsed the album, they'd even gone in and done like 2 weeks of hardcore like pre-production where they'd literally just thrashed out like the songs relentlessly, and I was kind of like, I've never met a band that prepared. Like it was incredible. And obviously, it's the opposite scenario where, and those guys are like, they're experienced musicians. Each guy knows exactly what he's doing, and he's got years of experience. So it's, all that stuff that you do with a kid band straight away out the window, and you can kind of focus on the kind of the real dialing in of the tones and making sure that they're getting the best performance possible. And occasionally, I'm seeing space to pitch in maybe creatively, but it's such a different skill set that's required for the two scenarios. And obviously, day-to-day producing of bands, you've got to be able to produce all the bands in between as well. So it's, I think that spectrum of work is kind of what keeps recording interesting for me. That's kind of what, obviously you could be working, I mean, I work with lots of different genres, so that keeps it interesting as well. So, one time I could, one session I could be working with a kind of, pop band that are starting out that don't really know what they're doing. And then the next week I could be working with, a really experienced death metal band. So it's kind of I quite enjoy. I just think it keeps me on my toes. It's different skill sets are coming out. You find yourself looking for different ways to interpret, to interact with them and get the best out of them. Because as a producer, you're constantly, you're seeing what the artist is bringing you, but then you've got this vision in your head of what you want them to do. And obviously, it's their band, so it's your job to, get your opinion across, but in a way that doesn't offend anyone, but obviously try and take them on the journey, but see how far they want to go on that journey. And it's rewarding. I think that kind of, for me, that spectrum of work, that spectrum of clients, I find really, really rewarding. And I would be gutted if I only had one type of client. That would, for me, make it really boring. I definitely wouldn't want to, not work out with, and I don't always hunt down bands, but occasionally, like I'm quite lucky. Like I've obviously been at it for a few years, so a lot of my clients are kind of repeat work or bands that are kind of doing kind of quite well, and they're looking for someone that's been at it a while as well. But I'm still like listening online and kind of searching for who I think are going to be the next bands that I want to be involved with, or I think could be the next big thing and stuff. And I'm, occasionally still reaching out. So when I'm not being so lazy, I'll reach out and yeah. But I should make more effort. But yeah. So I guess in answer, like I don't really have a preference. Was that what you asked? If there was a preference?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, there's a preference page.
I would prefer, if possible, if any potential clients are watching, is just making sure they've done their homework with their songs, making sure that they kind of know their songs always helps. I mean, but then again, I say that, and it's kind of like sometimes it's nice to have that song that's not quite finished, that as a producer you get really involved with, and you can kind of rip apart. And there's that, I think I might have said it to you when you're in the studio, there's that Quincy Jones quote where it's like, come to the studio prepared, but make sure you leave enough room for God. The magic is, I think, what he meant. Like, come to the studio knowing your shit, but leave a little bit of space for a producer to kind of go, I don't know about that version, try this. Because if you get too attached to something, when a producer says, can you try this instead, that, you'll look at the producer like, what the hell are you on about? I've spent 6 months rehearsing this. I know exactly. And if I try and do it any other way, I'm going to explode. So no. So like, yeah.
That's the definition of a producer, really. I know that you've kind of said, you've mentioned like an old school producer, which is funny because technically I suppose a producer is someone that helps produce the track. But, obviously now producers are now engineers as well. Like it's, they're very much part of the same thing. But yeah, absolutely. If I was, if I go into a studio and I need my track produced, if I need it engineered, that's a different thing. But I would hire an engineer.
Yeah.
Right, this is the way it's going to be. But I don't think, well, I certainly haven't, and I don't think I ever would. I think I would always want to work with a producer. I need someone else's ear on it because my ear's deaf to it now. I've been slaving over the song and trying different versions, and I'm not happy with it. But time's ticking, so I need to get in and record it. I need another ear. I need someone to tell me if it's shit or not.
It's hard, man. It's like I've been trying to jam recently again. I've got some some instrumentals that friends have sent me, and a few of them I'm quite into, and I'm trying to work on them. And as soon as I start singing, like your brain completely changes as soon as it's me. And this is why I can sympathize with singers so much, because like something happens where you get so inside your head and your own thoughts, and you look into like these tiny little parts of the line, but you're not seeing the whole picture, or I don't know, you can just get so easy to get lost. And there's this magic thing happens when you're a producer, and it's just because you're cold to the to it, you don't know the reason why the singer's singing or what they're doing. You don't really know the melodies. You don't, and you can just be so black and white about it. It's just, it's priceless to have that kind of that, to have that input, to have the fresh, like you just said, the fresh ears. And I'm trying to separate the two sides of my brain. It's really hard at the moment.
It's difficult.
So, yeah. But it's so annoying because I know when I work with bands, I can be so brutal and just be like, no, I don't like that. You should do this. And it's so hard to do it with yourself. So yeah, hopefully that's kind of what, will make this job last, I think, hopefully, because obviously, there's a lot of stuff's becoming automated. There's automated mastering online. What's next? Automated mixing. I don't know if there'll be automated producing. How could that possibly happen? Like obviously you could have a machine kind of give you their opinion, like calculated, but I don't know.
It's like the argument for AI, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, how human can these robots be?
Are we just the sum of lots of equations, or are we actually thinking? Are we going to
ones? Well, mate, without going off on too much of a tangent from these questions, and I'm blowing smoke up your ass, but you certainly made me a better singer because of your your production technique, from being hard on me, from pushing me beyond what I thought I could achieve as a singer. Because when we did our first EP with you, I was singing how I knew. I'd never really had lessons or anything like that. I just was doing what my voice was allowing me to do, within the parameters of what my voice was allowing me to do. And it was only when I got into the studio with you in the booth and you were like, nah, mate, you can hit that. And I was like, I don't know if I can. You can, just do it. And I was like, okay. And honestly, from then on out, I've just become a better singer. I've become, my range has increased no end. My ability to control different techniques has become a lot better. So, mate, I owe everything to you for my voice, man.
Oh, dude, I'm just glad to hear that, you know, the pipes are strong as ever and you're keeping at it and, you know, still doing your thing.
Well, yeah, I could be practicing. Difficult in an apartment when you've got neighbors.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's hard. Like, yeah, I mean, dude, let's, you know, be honest, like COVID's affected the whole entire world. So once we get through to the next stage of life, you can, you know, get back to singing again and get touring and, you know.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So this is the tricky question, or perhaps a tricky question. Do you have a preference between recording the artist or mixing the project?
Yeah, that's the tough one, isn't it? I mean, for me, I always think there's such different skill sets. I'm almost surprised that I'm employed to do both of them, if you know what I mean. But obviously they go hand in hand. A band really does want a one-stop shop. It's just the way of the world now, whereas it wasn't before. To be honest, where I came from, when I said to you earlier on, like when I started out with Dan doing the kind of the duo thing, back then I would have said the mixing and mastering was always my favorite thing to do, because it's this kind of like, it's me, like being me, geeking out and using the tools that are available to take the sound to that, you know, what you're hearing in your head. But I don't know whether it's COVID making me, and I'm not able to record bands as much at the moment, but right now I want to say for me, the favorite bit is recording bands. Maybe that's because I've not been doing it as much. But yeah, like there's something about that interaction with other humans, which you're not getting in COVID. No, where you're able to work with people and you're able to bounce ideas off of them. I really enjoy, like, not sounding weird, but I quite enjoy getting inside other people's heads and kind of learning what their goals are, what they want to achieve with their music. And then, like I said earlier on, like I've got my own goals for their music, and then you kind of find this, you know, I want to take them from A to B, but obviously I've got to be mindful that they might not want to go to B, so I'll take them as far as I can without getting told off. And my classic phrase is, you know, sorry, I know I'm pissing in cornflakes, which I'm sure you've heard me say to you, been in the booth, like basically my way of saying, sorry, I know you don't want to do this, but please, can you try it? And then we'll see if you like it afterwards, because there's something about, once something's recorded, you can listen back to it and you're hearing it as a listener. And that's that, you know, suddenly you're not the performer anymore, and you learn, you know, all performers can learn in that moment. So yeah, I don't know. I think right now I would almost say that recording is my favorite part of the process. Just because, you know, I actually quite like setting up guitars now. I quite enjoy intonating guitars. I quite like tuning drums. It's like, there's something about, like, obviously each drum is designed to be tuned in a certain way, and then a drummer wants to tune another way, and then you're kind of like, I don't know, you know, it's this balance, this constant balancing act of trying to work out what's going to get the best out of the gear that's available to you. Like, where's the mic going to sound best in the room, you know? Sometimes doing crazy shit like throwing a mic somewhere it shouldn't go, or, you know, putting a singer in a corner of a room and doing, you know, or putting them in a bathroom and doing some gang vocals, or, you know, like, recording can be really fun. I find, I mean, especially when a band's kind of done their homework, so you're kind of in a situation where you're like, you don't have to spend all your time reworking the songs or rewriting the songs. Suddenly you're in a position where you can get like really creative, and those times can be really, really fun, doing like stupid stuff, you know, things that you shouldn't do that just sound cool. And sometimes they sound shit, and then you're like, okay, sorry guys, we just wasted like 20 minutes, really stupid idea, and it sounds shit, but it's fun at the same time. So
Well, I don't suppose any of the time's really wasted. You know, if it was a shit idea, then at least you've ticked that off. And you can.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's been times we've had like electric toothbrushes up against like pickups because it makes weird sounds.
Yeah.
There's been times, you know, guitarists are straddling speakers to get feedback, you know, and then there's someone else playing with a delay pedal, and you know, someone else with a filter pedal, and then, you know, I'm in a corner of the room trying to save my ears but also do something with something out, another piece of gear, and it's just like, recording. So I definitely, to answer your question, I think right at this moment in time, I'm going to say, like, I think recording it might be my favorite part of the job.
Yeah, you can get you're very artistic with recording.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely find that like my favorite way of working though is to I really do enjoy record, mix and mastering projects though. Like that's my favorite way to work. I think there's times when I just record a band and I send it off to another mixer, I always get a bit like, oh man, I'd love to have mixed that record.
Yeah, right, exactly. Especially, you've had that connection with it to begin with, and
but you know,
those are my tune drums.
But I mean, I've been lucky enough to send it to, you know, stuff to like some of my favorite mixers, and it's kind of like, yeah, it's like really cool. But at the same time, I would love to see stuff through, and also I really enjoy that process of like, you know, when you're recording a band, you're in a certain mindset, and I find when I'm mixing a band, it's like the opposite mindset. It's totally internalized, and it's kind of about mind meditation. You know, even though I'm doing points at the end, I'm spending the majority of the time in my world. And I find that balance of like, you know, a couple of weeks recording and then a couple of weeks mixing, I find it works really well for like my mental state. I think if I do too much recording back to back, I go a bit mad. And the same for mixing. If I do too much mixing back to back, I definitely start to go a bit mad. So it's like, I definitely appreciate the sort of the two parts to the job.
Absolutely.
So maybe I've just backtracked and now I'm saying I don't prefer recording. So I'm the worst.
Situational.
You know, I'm gonna get banned from doing podcasts. So.
It's all good stuff, man. So, in the new era of digital release, do you think the demand for constantly pumping out new releases is sustainable for artists? And do you think it impacts creativity? Because this is something that I've been talking to friends, musician friends, songwriter friends about during this pandemic, and the sheer demand for content being quite overwhelming and actually putting a lot of stress on the songwriting process. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think this concept of feeling like bands need to kick out something all the time, it's just it's pressure, isn't it? Like you know, like in my days of SikTh, we kind of had this idea that we wanted to be hidden away, we wanted to stay away from the world, and kind of, you know, we didn't want to give too much away. And it's kind of worked out, you know, that the music industry is the opposite now. It's kind of like bands are kind of almost expected to give as much content as possible. And I mean, I feel sorry for bands. Like I feel like it's, you know, you literally have to sell your soul to get anywhere these days. Like you need to be constantly, I mean, maybe it's just because I'm a hermit and I don't like giving out too much information. You know, I don't like to be like that. But yeah, I think there's loads of pressure to constantly be kicking out social media content and kicking out singles all the time. And the sort of glory days where, you know, bands could go and make an album and do an album cycle and then put out singles and then release the album and then tour it and do that every 2 or 3 years has long gone. And I think you might be right. Like I think maybe that's part of the kind of, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think maybe that, music's evolving. I think there's a lot of pressure on bands. Maybe part of the reason why I don't want to be that guy that says that bands aren't reaching their full potential, because obviously we don't know what bands, could sound like if they weren't having to sort of conform to these expectations.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, I know that we certainly couldn't have done that with SikTh. Like, it would take us a year to write an album and then at least 6 months to record it. Record it, get it mixed, mastered, and then we wouldn't want to do that again for a long time because it would be so draining. Whereas the bands that are doing quite well, they're the ones that are constantly doing it. But yeah, I suspect bands would get more out of themselves if they didn't feel obliged to do that. I mean, I think it's about having some backbone. I think it's about realizing, there's no formula, is there? There's no, like, I mean, someone could ask you your opinion and kind of say like what they expect you to do or whatever to break it. But I think, I mean, I don't know. I just think having some backbone and doing it on your own terms and kind of finding that balance where you are competing with the kind of the release format, but you're also making sure you never scrimp on the quality of what you're and the integrity of what you're doing. Like, you need to kind of try not to sound like some fucking hippie kind of, like, man, it's your integrity. Like, but yeah, I think finding that balance is really, really important. But I think, to answer your question, I think if people are racing to kick out singles, there's been certain bands that I've worked with that have sent me stuff and they've literally just finished recording it and they're expecting to, they want their mix done in 2 weeks, and I'm like, guys, okay, I'll do my best, and then they don't really send me mix points because they're like, we just got to get it out, we've got to get it out.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
right.
kind of a dream scenario as a mixer, because then you're like, okay, well, I'm not having to do as much work because we're not really doing mix points, are we? But I can tell that they would probably, want to get a lot more involved, and they had a lot more creative ideas that they potentially wanted to get across, but because they're so focused on the release, then they're not really sending them over, and then it's done, and then they're releasing it, and that must be really hard on them. That must be really disappointing to know that it's not quite the album that you wanted to release because you were in such a race to get it out. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I personally don't really believe in cutting corners. I personally kind of believe in seeing things through and making them the best that they can be. And I don't know, maybe that's because of my experience in SikTh, where we were completely obsessive over every single detail to the point where it drove us insane and, probably made us split up a bit sooner than we would have we have been a bit more chilled out. But it's tough, isn't it? I guess life is balance. Find balance.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm interested to see how the new musicians of the world, how their process is like compared to ours, yours, mine, or at least what it was 10 years ago. I'm interested to see whether it's more of a culture of, this is what we've got. I don't know, do what you want with it. Don't worry about mixed notes. We just need to put it out because like the label's going to be old in 2 weeks. The single's going to be old in 2 weeks. So I don't know. I wonder if people are going to care less. I hope not. I hope not. I hope people still understand the integrity of the design of a track. But yeah, interesting. And I also hope that albums are still a thing for a little while longer because I love an album.
Yeah, I love albums. I mean, obviously they were the format back in the day. That was it, really, wasn't it? There weren't playlists back in the day. So I think obviously albums are competing with playlists now. But again, you know, I was saying before how it's good to have options, and you just got to find that format that works for you. Like I still love albums. Like this, for me, there's nothing beats that feeling of being excited about an album and it comes out, and you go disappear doing whatever you're doing that day, and you just put the album on, and you just get absorbed by it. But at the same time, kind of enjoying playlists. You know how like my phone will sneak now just play other songs, and I'm kind of like, oh cool, I wouldn't have thought to check out this band. Awesome, I'm really liking this song. I'm gonna add that. But then I go, now I've heard that band that I like, that I hadn't heard before, I'm gonna add their album.
Yeah, right. Go grab their album. Yeah.
So I still feel like no matter what happens, like albums in my mind, I'm hoping here that they are the main format. They're like the headliner for a band. They're like the headline act, really. That's kind of what you should strive. Your greatest achievement, which is, you know, which will hopefully last the test of time.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know, you as an artist, when you think back, do you feel like your albums are a much stronger body of work than your EPs, not just because of the amount of songs, but because of the amount that you put into them as well, maybe?
Absolutely. I feel as though they are, yeah, they're an accumulation of hard work, and they are, not that I'm not proud of singles, but they are, an album for me is like my trophy on the wall.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the,
it's like a landmark, isn't it?
Landmark. Like that's a great, great word for it. Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing I want to display. Yeah, I want to display that. I probably wouldn't put a single, you know, just a quick single that we've done like a quick little, like, you know, folder thing for. It's about
it's not enough information, is it? No, that's the thing. As an artist, when you write an album, you're writing a journey. You don't. It's a collection of songs. So you are, even if they are all death metal tracks and they're angry as fuck, there's still going to be some dynamics between them. There's going to be one that's a bit more this way and one that's a bit more that way. One that's, you know, potentially could be some sort of a ballady kind of feel in some death metal-y way. That's my analogy for this. But yeah, I don't know. I think, and I really still hope that the album always has its place, because for me, there's no greater kind of way to enjoy music other than live than to put a band's album on. Yeah,
definitely. And also, I'm interested in how the music industry is gonna, because I know it's changing, well, every day. But with the album format, you know, I guess it wasn't that long ago that if you weren't in the sort of generally, if you didn't have an album, you probably weren't given as much of a look in. So if you just had even a collection of, you know, an EP's worth of singles, or just a bunch of singles or whatever, I think it always took an album for the music industry to be like, okay, they're serious, we can talk now. Well, I know firsthand from myself, from you know, chasing record deals for my bands, or for other bands that I've worked with. They've always been like, well, show us some albums. We like this album. When's the next one out?
Yeah,
you know, get back in the studio, see what you can do next.
Yeah,
it was always that. Yeah, always album. But now, you know, now especially in the pop industry, pop and hip hop industries, just bang out a bunch of singles every 3-4 weeks, and you know, that caters to this new content driven world.
Fast food era.
Fast food, yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, perfect analogy. Fast music.
Yeah.
There you go. So the final question.
Yeah.
And this is a funny one, because I even remember it when we were first finishing up the EP. So I know, as one of them, that a lot of the early stage bands, so the young bands, when they finish the record with you, will ask you for advice on what to do next, because they don't know what to do. So what's your usual response with this?
Go get drunk. No. All right. So, well, no. All right. Maybe within that phrase there was enjoy your successes. So you've just finished your recording. Celebrate.
Yeah.
Celebrate every success that you achieve, and you will enjoy every part of what you do in a band, because there's loads of crap times, there's loads of good times, but it's the bands that ride out the crap times. Like any profession, any journey, it's kind of separates the boys from the men, doesn't it? It's like, says the guy that's quit his band twice, but yeah. But yeah, I guess my point is, be relentless, enjoy what you've achieved, and just keep at it. And I think that's the only way that anyone is going to get success in any profession. I think it goes through being a lawyer to being a doctor. You're going to have down days. You're going to have days when you want to throw the towel in. You're going to have days where you think, well, what's the point in doing this? And your goal seems completely unachievable. But there's bands that I've worked with that I never would have guessed have gone on to be so successful, and then the complete opposite. There's bands that I would have bet my life would be the next big thing, and it hasn't worked out for them. And it's just, you can't really control it. You just got to enjoy it. But at the same time, if you're not relentless, then you're not giving yourself the best opportunity to achieve what you can achieve. I don't think that, I don't think, when people are like, oh, he's just born with it, like it's just gonna happen. Like I don't really believe in that. I think anything is achievable. I think it's the number 2 guy that comes out on top. I think the number 1 guy that gets life handed to him on a plate, they're the guys that will just kind of fritter away and won't achieve what they can. I think it's the guys that work their, or girls, sorry, that work their fucking asses off to make it happen. They're the ones that are going to win. And the great thing is, there's always another day. There's always another opportunity. There's so many platforms. There's so many ways in which you can make it happen. Look at the Beatles. Like, no one wanted to sign them. Like, look at any artist. Like, any huge artist in the history of music, they probably had people that didn't believe in them or wanted to sign them at the beginning. And it was them being relentless that led them to, to achieving what they wanted to achieve and beyond. So yeah, it's tough though. It's tough to kind of because when you're in a band, everybody's got to be of the same mindset as well. If you're a solo artist, you can, it's just you really. You just got to believe in yourself and just be relentless. But if you're a group of 5 people or 6 people, you've all got to share that dream. You've all got to share, ride it out together. And often one member will just kind of be like, they'll start to, you'll start shedding members, won't you? And then it's really draining on other members, and it's hard. It's really hard to keep that kind of persistence and that kind of drive going, isn't it? If you don't get many wins, then it just feels like, well, what's the point? And it's really, really hard. But yeah, I think the only thing that I've personally witnessed is just the people that have gone on to do really well have been relentless, and also they've been kind of fearless in a way. Like they're the sort of people. I mean, you'd be surprised, like dropping emails, just being adventurous and just pinging your music over to someone. Like, obviously you've got to be humble and not be a dick or anything, but just reaching out and creating opportunities. It goes a long way. There's things that I've witnessed that I never would have thought would happen by people just sending an email. Just sending an I mean, I've never done it myself because I'm probably a bit too chilled, but there's definitely been times where I've seen other people do it, and they've pinged an email to a label and it sparks a relationship. And honestly, there's conversations happening because of it. And I'm shocked in a good way. I'm surprised. It's great. So yeah, just be adventurous in a humble way and see what happens.
Solid advice.
So, hopefully not just the drunk ramblings of someone on a Tuesday.
Well, even if they are. So, mate, what's next? What's coming up? I know, obviously, we're slowly maybe coming out of the whole pandemic situation now. Projects.
Yeah, I'm going to be recording again, which is good. I've got a couple of EPs and albums lined up, which is good. And yeah, I'm negotiating a load of stuff at the moment. So we'll see what happens. I've got some cool projects coming up. I don't think they want me to mention stuff too much, but yeah. And then there's other stuff in negotiation, but we'll see. You never know how things are going to pan out, do you? You just got to chat, see what happens, see what works. This, like, you know, like I've been saying, there's lots of options. I know there's plenty of other guys or girl people out there doing this job. So you just got to find the right fit, haven't you? See. So, you know, we all know the standard that we need to hit. So what, you know, we don't need to waste each other's time. If someone's going to connect better with someone else, that's, yeah, I completely commend that.
Well, I suspect people are going to want to jump back into the studio when it's available. Maybe even just for the human interaction.
Yeah. And I can get to tune some drums again and intonate some guitars.
Intonate some guitars, exactly.
And then I realized that I actually have been lying to myself this whole time, and it isn't actually that fun.
Just been mulling it over in your head, like, actually, maybe not.
Yeah.
And the studio, I mean, I know you're adding to it, but yeah, for those interested, this is how long's this project been now since you got the house?
5 years I've been in this room, which is crazy. Like, but I mean, this is kind of like my personal studio. This is my mix master overdub studio.
Sweet.
Yeah, there you go. I'm still primarily using commercial studios, but obviously for certain bands, this place is right. I mean, I've done a couple of albums where, you know, I have had like 6-7 people in here, and it's been pretty mental and uncomfortable. It's not really designed for that amount of people, but
yeah.
I don't know. You kind of gauge, don't you? You just think, like, you know, when you're sending emails back and forth with people, I tend to kind of work out who's going to be right to bring here. But obviously this is like, you know, my accumulation of gear, which I'm constantly adding to and improving. And, you know, the great thing about, like, I'm a Pro Tools user, so it does break my bank upgrading every time.
Yeah, man.
Ridiculous. Avid need to really have a think about why they're so expensive. It breaks my heart. But yeah, no, I'm definitely a fan of outboard gear and consoles and, you know, real amps and stuff, and I'm kind of adding to the collection as I go along. So the console, it's still
ye old faithful.
Back from 40. Do you know, I've been getting it serviced.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, parts of it, because it's quite expensive and there's a lot of channels. So. Yeah, so parts of it have been serviced, but the parts that I use most often, it will all get done soon. But I still love it. There's definitely, you know, it's a DDA console. It's a British made. Like, I think it's like a 94. I mean, it's not sought after like the Neves or the SSLs, but it's got a unique sound. There's no plugins of it either, so, you know, it's definitely, I'm keeping it, man.
Yeah, and there's history in it as well. There's so much history in it, so
yeah, probably some blood and puke in it and stuff.
All sorts. Yeah.
I have wiped it down since I brought it here. Don't worry.
Good.
It's all been cleaned,
sanitized.
Yeah, exactly. Fortress was a fun place, but it's a bit too wild, wasn't it?
I just remember the little living space with the bar just outside.
Yeah,
coming in there on a first thing in the morning for a session, and just the smell of stale beer and the sticky floor. I'm like, right, we're ready. Today's going to be a good session.
You know, people probably had only just left from the night before. Dude, it was a private bar, man. It was like anything goes. Like, people could just be in there partying for days and not leave. And I definitely witnessed people being in there for days and not leaving. And but what an experience to be behind a private bar.
Yeah,
it was crazy. Plenty of bands I work with would just party in there instead of going out in London, and then I come in the next day and they'd still be there, just collapsed against the studio door, ready to go. And I'm just ready to go. Wow. Yeah. Props. Go to Starbucks, get a coffee, and then you'll be fine. Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you could find some value in the conversation. If you're a musical artist looking for some experienced guidance on how to further your career and would like to know what Point Break Entertainment could do to help, follow the links in the description below and feel free to reach out to us at any time.